My Karen coworker threatened to falsely report me to get what she wanted, so I told her to do it, then used her own claims to bury her. I'm a manager at a decent-sized startup marketing firm, and last year we got this new employee, Karen, whose favorite thing in the entire world was to threaten me with false sexual assault allegations. It all started 2 weeks in, when she wanted to leave early on a Friday because she felt like she deserved it. I told her we had a major deadline and really needed her there. She paused and touched her collar like she was adjusting it. "Your tone makes me feel uneasy today. I don't want to report that to upper management," she said in this weird, soft voice. The way she said it made my stomach drop. I approved her request and watched her walk out with this little smile. After that, it became her go-to move. When she wanted a project off her plate, she'd tell me how bad misconduct looks on resumes. When she wanted an extra day off, she'd unbutton her shirt and remind me how easy it was to make men in upper management believe her. I started leaving my door open during all meetings just to make sure evidence was always there. But it didn't help. You see, Karen didn't play this game with only me. Within 3 months, she'd gotten David transferred to another department by telling HR she felt weird after meetings with him. She never filed a formal complaint, just wanted it noted for her own peace of mind. She got his corner office and all his best accounts. Here's where it gets really bad. Our company was bleeding money and had already lost 2 major clients that quarter. We were down to skeleton crew, and this renewal was worth almost 30% of our revenue. Karen was supposed to lead the presentation since she'd inherited it from David. The CEO and his entire board of the company we were set to sign with came in for this meeting, and on the morning of the presentation, Karen just didn't show up, didn't even answer her phone. I had to scramble to cover, and although I did a decent job, it was still a nightmare. The client was furious at how unprepared we looked and gave the contract to a competitor on the spot. When I finally got Karen on the phone 2 hours later, she claimed she'd sent an email last night at 3 a.m. saying she couldn't make it. Of course, there was no email. I told her to get to the office immediately. She strolled in another hour later like nothing happened. I called her into the small conference room and completely lost it. "This is unacceptable," I said. "You just cost us one of the biggest accounts." She tilted her head and gave me that look I'd come to hate. "Your anger feels directed. I'd think about how offenders get treated if I was you." I told her to stop it. "This is about work performance." "Is it though? This energy, this intensity feels like something else." That's when I snapped. I told her I don't care what it feels like. "You're on probation, effective immediately." She got very quiet. "I need to process this interaction. The way you isolated me in here, then process it. File your complaint. Do your little dance, I don't care." Her eyes went wide. Nobody had called her bluff before. She walked out looking unsure of what to do. I can't say I wasn't nervous in the aftermath. And sure enough, an hour later, security escorted me out. As predicted, Karen came to HR with puffed hair, red eyes, and her skirt slightly ripped. She accused me of creating a hostile environment, cornering her in the office, making advances, and demanding favors for job security. I was crushed, or would have been. You see, I had known for a very long time this day would come. I had been documenting everything for months, and more importantly, something she didn't know was that the room we were in had a security camera. I knew I was going to win the case, and on top of that, I made it my mission to crush her. While suspended, I hired a private investigator, and what he found was gold. Her divorce filings showed she'd cheated with her boss at her previous company. That boss's wife had text messages of Karen bragging about knowing how to handle male managers. There were police reports from domestic disturbances at her address, and her ex-husband's custody filing claimed she was manipulative and creates false narratives. The company called me in for an emergency meeting a week later. When I arrived, I was confident, but then I saw Karen's car in the executive spot. Nobody ever parked there. I went inside slowly, almost nervous. I remember pausing outside the conference room door with my folder of evidence. I could hear her inside arguing with someone. I couldn't make out what was said, but the second I opened the door, her face drained of color. She stood up and asked HR if she could sit as far away from me as possible. Apparently, seeing her abuser traumatized her. My jaw dropped on the floor, and it dropped even more when HR pulled a chair for her and had me sit in the corner of the room. Karen kept acting nervous and glancing at me every few seconds, before apologizing to the HR guy and telling him she's sorry I just make her anxious and slightly unsafe. The meeting started 5 minutes later, and as soon as it did, the HR guys turned to me and said, "We're going to have to suspend you indefinitely pending an investigation." My world stopped. I sat there frozen, trying to process what was happening. The HR representative shuffled through papers, while Karen dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. My hands gripped the folder of evidence so tight the edges crumpled. "This is insane," I finally managed to say. "I have documentation showing we'll review everything during the investigation," the HR guy interrupted. He slid a paper across the table. "For now, you need to sign this acknowledging the suspension." Karen shifted in her chair, making a small whimpering sound. The HR representative immediately turned to her with concern. She waved him off weakly, then glanced at me before looking away quickly. I opened my folder and pulled out the security footage screenshot. The conference room has a camera. It recorded our entire conversation about her missing the client meeting. The HR guy barely glanced at it. "We're aware of the camera. The footage is being reviewed as part of the investigation. Then you'll see she's lying about everything," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Karen flinched dramatically. "Please, can we just get through this? I don't feel safe with him getting aggressive again." "I'm not being aggressive. I'm defending myself against false accusations." The HR representative held up his hand. "Mr. Thompson, please lower your voice. Ms. Henderson has been through enough." I stared at him in disbelief. Karen had them completely fooled. She sat there playing the perfect victim while my career hung in the balance. Yes, the investigation will be thorough, he continued. In the meantime, you're not to contact any employees or clients. You'll need to turn in your laptop and badge before leaving. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number should have given me that promotion. I looked up at Karen. She was focused intently on the HR representative, but I caught the slight upturn at the corner of her mouth. She just texted me, I said, showing my phone to the HR guy. He frowned. That number isn't registered to any employee. Of course it isn't. She's using a burner phone. Karen's eyes went wide with fear. He's scaring me. Can security please escort him out? The HR representative nodded and picked up his phone. Within minutes, 2 security guards appeared at the door. I stood up, clutching my folder. This is a mistake. When you see that footage, the company takes all allegations seriously, the HR guy said. We'll be in touch within 2 weeks regarding next steps. The security guards flanked me as I walked out. We stopped at my office where I watched them pack my personal items into a box. 5 years of work reduced to a cardboard container. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and called my lawyer. He answered on the second ring. They suspended me, I said, indefinitely. Based on what evidence? Her word. That's it. They wouldn't even look at my documentation. He sighed. Unfortunately, companies often take the cautious approach with these allegations. Send me everything you have. We'll prepare for the worst. After hanging up, I drove home in a daze. My phone kept buzzing with texts from coworkers asking what happened. Word traveled fast in our office. That evening, I got an email from HR. They'd scheduled my first investigation interview for Monday morning. I spent the weekend organizing my evidence chronologically. Every inappropriate comment Karen had made, every witness who'd seen her behavior, every project she'd sabotaged. Monday came too quickly. I arrived at the office 15 minutes early, but had to wait in the lobby since my badge no longer worked. The security guard watched me like I might bolt for the elevators. The investigator was a woman I'd never seen before, probably external. She introduced herself as Ms. Chen and led me to a conference room on the first floor, far from my usual area. Let's start from the beginning, she said, opening her laptop. How long have you worked with Ms. Henderson? About a year. She was hired last January. And when did the alleged incidents begin? I pulled out my documentation. 2 weeks after she started. She wanted to leave early on a Friday. When I said no because of a deadline, she threatened to report me for my tone. Ms. Chen typed without looking up. Did you report this threat? I thought it was just a weird interaction, but it became a pattern. I walked her through each incident, showing emails and text messages. She took notes, but her expression remained neutral. What about the day of the client meeting? She asked. Karen was supposed to lead the presentation. She didn't show up, didn't call. We lost the account because of it. And then? I called her into the conference room to discuss her performance. That's when she made more threats about reporting me. I told her she was on probation. Ms. Chen looked up. Multiple witnesses report hearing shouting from that room. I raised my voice. Yes, I just watched her cost us 30% of our revenue. Ms. Henderson claims you cornered her and made inappropriate advances. I pushed the security footage screenshot across the table. The camera will show that's a lie. She glanced at it. We're having some technical difficulties accessing that particular footage. My stomach dropped. What kind of difficulties? The file appears to be corrupted. IT is working on recovering it. Of course it was. I wondered if Karen had help or if the company was just covering themselves. The interview continued for 2 more hours. Ms. Chen asked about my relationship with other female employees, my management style, my personal life. Each question felt like another nail in my coffin. As I left, I passed Karen in the lobby. She was chatting with the receptionist, looking perfectly normal. When she saw me, her face crumpled into fear and she hurried toward the elevators. The receptionist gave me a cold look. The security guard stepped closer. I walked out feeling like a pariah. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. You should just quit, Karen's voice said when I answered. Make this easy on everyone. I'm recording this call. I lied. She laughed. No, you're not. But even if you were, this is my friend's phone. Good luck proving it's me. What do you want, Karen? I already got what I wanted. David's accounts, his office, and soon, your job. The truth will come out. The truth? She sounded amused. The truth is that you're a middle-aged man who yelled at a young female employee behind closed doors. Everything else is just details. She hung up before I could respond. That evening, I noticed a car parked across from my house. It was there when I took out the trash. Still there when I walked my dog. Finally, I approached it. The driver rolled down the window. It was a pie, but not mine. Ms. Henderson hired me to document any threatening behavior, he said matter-of-factly. I'd appreciate if you'd return to your house. I stood there dumbfounded. She was building a case that I was stalking her while having me stalked. Back inside, I called my own PI. I need you to dig deeper on Karen. There has to be more. I'm already on it, he said. Found something interesting. 3 jobs in 5 years. Left each one suddenly. Can you contact her previous employers? Working on it, but these things take time. Time I didn't have. Every day suspended was another day Karen solidified her story. The next morning, I woke up to emails from 3 clients asking if I was still handling their accounts. Someone had told them I was taking a leave of absence for personal issues. I couldn't respond without violating the no contact order. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. By afternoon, my LinkedIn was blowing up. Karen had posted about finding the strength to speak up against workplace harassment. She didn't name me, but anyone from our company would know. The comments were supportive. So brave. Thank you for sharing. This happens too often, I wanted to scream. Instead, I channeled my frustration into organizing my defense. I created a timeline of every interaction, cross-referenced with emails and calendar entries. That's when I noticed something. The day Karen claimed I made advances, she'd sent an email to her personal account at 3:47 p.m. The subject line was just a period. The body was empty except for an attachment labeled insurance. I couldn't access the attachment, but the timing was suspicious. Our confrontation had been at 3:30. I called my lawyer. lawyer. She planned this. She sent herself an email right after our meeting. Speculation, he said. Unless we can see what she sent, it's meaningless. Wednesday brought my second interview with Ms. Chen. This time she had Karen's full statement. Ms. Henderson claims you've shown a pattern of inappropriate behavior. Can you explain these text messages? She showed me screenshots of messages I'd never sent. Flirty, inappropriate things from a number that looked like mine, but was one digit off. That's not my number, I said. Check my phone records. We have. The number isn't registered to anyone. Because she faked them. Ms. Chen's expression didn't change. Let's move on to the conference room incident. We went through it again and again. Each time she found new ways to make my actions sound sinister. Why did I call Karen in alone? Why that particular room? Why did I close the door? Because it was a private performance discussion, I said for the 5th time. Ms. Henderson feels you chose that room because it's isolated. It's the only small conference room available. Check the booking system. She made another note. I realized she wasn't investigating the truth. She was building the company's defense against a potential lawsuit. After 3 hours, I was exhausted. As I gathered my things, Ms. Chen said, we should have a determination by Friday. What about the security footage? Still working on recovering it. I knew then it would never be recovered. Thursday morning, my PI called with news. Found Karen's previous manager. He can't say much, but he confirmed she left under unusual circumstances, and he'd be happy to provide a reference about her creative approach to workplace dynamics. That's code for something, obviously, but without specifics, it's not much help. I hung up feeling defeated. Even if I proved Karen was a serial manipulator, would it matter? The company just wanted this to go away. That afternoon, I saw Karen's car at the grocery store. I immediately left without buying anything. The last thing I needed was her claiming I was following her, but when I got home, I was already there, taking photos of me arriving. She said you followed her to the store, he called out. I didn't respond. Inside, I found an email from a coworker on my personal account. Hey, just wanted you to know Karen's been reassigned to your accounts temporarily. She's telling clients you had a breakdown. My phone rang. My lawyer. The company wants to meet tomorrow. They're offering a severance package. They want me to quit. They want this to go away. If you take the package, you sign an NDA and everyone moves on. What about my reputation? My career? You can fight it, but these cases are hard to win and expensive. I spent the night weighing my options. Take the money and let Karen win, or fight and risk losing everything. Friday morning, I put on my best suit. If this was my execution, I'd face it with dignity. The meeting was in the executive conference room. The CEO, head of HR, legal counsel, and Ms. Chen were waiting. No Karen, thankfully. We've completed our investigation, the head of HR began. While we can't make a definitive determination about the alleged incident, we feel it's best for all parties if we part ways. The CEO slid a folder across the table. 6-month severance, continuation of benefits, and a neutral reference. In exchange, you agree not to discuss the circumstances of your departure. I opened the folder. The number was decent. Not great, but decent. What about Karen? I asked. That's not your concern, legal counsel said. She fabricated this entire thing. She's done it before. We've found no evidence of fabrication, Ms. Chen said. The security footage was unfortunately corrupted, but witness statements support Ms. Henderson's version of events. What witnesses? No one else was in the room. Several employees heard raised voices and saw Ms. Henderson leave visibly upset. I laughed bitterly. Of course she was upset. I just put her on probation for costing us our biggest client. The CEO leaned forward. Tom, take the deal. This doesn't have to define your career. But we all knew it would. In our industry, word traveled. I'd be the manager who got fired for harassment. Karen would be the brave victim who stood up to abuse. I need time to consider, I said. You have until Monday, legal counsel said. After that, the offer is withdrawn and we'll proceed with termination for cause. I left feeling numb. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and watched employees heading to lunch. Normal people living normal lives while mine imploded. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Heard about your meeting, Karen's voice said. Take the deal. It's the best you'll get. How did you? I have friends everywhere. Just like I had a friend in IT who helped with that pesky security footage. My blood ran cold. You admitted to destroying evidence. I'm recording this. Are you? Check your phone. I looked at the screen. The recording app I'd started when I answered wasn't running. It had crashed. Technology is so unreliable, she continued. Just like security cameras. Take the deal, Tom. Move on. Find a new job in a new city where no one knows what you did to me. What I did? You're destroying my life because I wouldn't let you leave early. No. Her voice turned hard. I'm destroying your life because you thought you could control me. Just like David thought he could. Just like my ex thought he could. Your ex? She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Vulnerable. You have no idea what I've been through. What men like you put women through every day. Karen, I never. Take the deal, she said, back to her cold tone. Or I'll make sure everyone in this industry knows exactly what kind of man you are. The line went dead. I spent the weekend in a haze. My lawyer advised taking the deal. My friends said to fight. My family just wanted it over. Monday morning, I signed the papers. By afternoon, I was cleaning out my office under security supervision. 5 years reduced to 3 boxes. Karen watched from across the floor, talking animatedly with my former team. As I waited for the elevator, she appeared beside me. For what it's worth, she said quietly. It wasn't personal. I needed your job. This was the fastest way. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside without responding. You'll land on your feet, she called out as the doors closed. Men like you always do. But as I drove away from the building for the last time, I wondered if she was right, or if this was just the beginning of a war I'd already lost. My phone rang. My PI. Got something interesting, he said. Karen's ex filed a restraining order last week. Claims she's been harassing him, making false accusations to his employer. I pulled over. Are you serious? Dead serious. And get this, he says she threatened to do the same things she did to her previous bosses if he didn't pay increased alimony. Can we use this? You signed an NDA, remember? But I'll keep digging. Something tells me Karen's going to do this again. And next time, someone might be ready. I sat there on the side of the road, watching traffic pass. Somewhere in the city, Karen was probably at my old desk, handling my accounts, living my life. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something besides anger and despair. I felt hope. Because if Karen had done this before, if she was doing it to her ex, then eventually, inevitably, she'd do it again. And maybe, just maybe, the next person would be ready for her. I drove home with the PI's words echoing in my head. Karen was doing this to her ex too. The pattern was bigger than just me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept refreshing LinkedIn, watching the comments pile up on Karen's post. Former colleagues who knew me for years were praising her courage. My phone lit up with another unknown number. I didn't answer. The next morning, I started driving for Uber full-time. Bills wouldn't pay themselves while I figured out my next move. My first passenger was a chatty woman who worked at a competing marketing firm. She mentioned they were hiring, but when I expressed interest, she asked for my LinkedIn. I made an excuse about updating it. 3 days into my new routine, I picked up a familiar face. Ben from accounting climbed into my back seat, did a double take, then tried to act like he didn't recognize me. Tom, man, I heard you were taking some time off. Something like that, I said, keeping my eyes on the road. He shifted uncomfortably. Look, everyone knows Karen's full of it, but nobody wants to be her next target. Smart. She's been asking about you, where you're living, what you're doing. Told Min from design that she's worried you might retaliate. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I signed an NDA. I can't even defend myself. Yeah, well, she didn't sign anything. She's been telling anyone who'll listen about the trauma you caused. Even started a support group for workplace harassment survivors. I dropped Ben off without another word, but his information explained why I'd been seeing Karen's car in my neighborhood. She wasn't done with me. That afternoon, I parked outside a coffee shop between rides. Through the window, I saw Karen sitting with 3 women from our office. She was gesturing dramatically, occasionally dabbing at dry eyes. One of the women hugged her. My phone rang. My lawyer. We have a problem. Karen's attorney contacted me. She's considering a civil suit for emotional distress. She got everything she wanted. My job, my reputation. Apparently that's not enough. She claims ongoing trauma from your stalking behavior. What stalking behavior? Her PI has photos of you at the same grocery store, the same coffee shop. She's building a pattern. I looked at the coffee shop window. Karen was staring directly at me, a small smile playing on her lips. She'd orchestrated this. I'm working. These are normal places. Doesn't matter how it looks to you. It matters how it looks to a judge. You need to vary your routine. And Tom, document everything. Every ride, every stop. Create your own timeline. I started my car and drove away, catching Karen's satisfied expression in my rearview mirror. The next 2 weeks became a careful dance. I changed my routes, avoided any place Karen might be, and documented every minute of my day. But she was always one step ahead. She started showing up at gas stations right after I left, making sure security cameras caught her looking frightened. Her PI would arrive minutes later to document her distress. I knew because my own PI was tracking them both. She's got a whole system, he told me over the phone. Checks your Uber app to see when you're active in certain areas, then positions herself nearby. It's elaborate. Can we prove it? Working on it. But Tom, there's something else. I talked to her ex-husband. He's willing to meet. 2 days later, I sat across from Marcus in a diner 40 miles outside the city. He looked exhausted, with the hollow eyes of someone who'd been fighting a losing battle for too long. She destroyed me, he said without preamble. Took my kids, my house, my reputation, all with lies. Tell me everything. Marcus pulled out a folder thick with documents. It started small. She'd accused me of yelling when I hadn't raised my voice. Said I was controlling when I asked about her spending. Then she started recording our conversations, but only parts that made me look bad. The false allegations came later. When I filed for divorce, she suddenly remembered all these times I'd been inappropriate with her. No evidence, just her word. But her word was enough. I studied the papers, police reports, court documents, therapist notes, a clear pattern of escalation. Why didn't anyone see through it? Marcus laughed bitterly. Because she's good. She doesn't make big claims, just small, believable ones. Plant seeds of doubt. By the time you realize what's happening, everyone already thinks you're guilty. Your restraining order against her? She's been calling my employer, claiming I'm dangerous, showing up at my apartment building. But she's careful, always has plausible reasons for being there. Would you testify about this pattern? Can't. Court order. I'm not allowed to discuss our marriage publicly. She made sure of that. I left the meeting with copies of everything Marcus could legally share. It painted a clear picture, but not one I could use. Not yet. Back in the city, I found an eviction notice on my door. My landlord had received concerning information about my legal troubles. I had 30 days to vacate. I called the landlord, but he wouldn't budge. I run a family building. Can't have someone with your history here. What history? I was never charged with anything. Look, I don't want any trouble. Just find somewhere else. That night, I sat in my car outside a 24-hour gym, using their Wi-Fi to search for apartments. Every decent place wanted references. References I couldn't provide without violating my NDA or exposing my situation. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Heard you're looking for a new place. Karen's voice was sweet, almost concerned. That must be stressful. How did you? I worry about you, Tom. Living in your car can't be safe. Maybe you should consider moving to another city. Fresh start. Is that what you told David? Silence. Then, David made his choice, just like you'll make yours. I'm not going anywhere, Karen. No? Well, I hope you find something soon. Winter's coming. Would hate for you to be on the streets. She hung up. I realized she'd just threatened to make me homeless. The next morning, I drove to David's new office across town. He'd landed at a smaller firm, taken a pay cut, but at least he was working. He agreed to see me for coffee. Don't, he said as soon as we sat down. Whatever you're thinking, don't. You know what she did to me. I know what she did to both of us. But I have a new job, Tom. A new life. I can't risk it. She's still doing it. Her ex, now me. Who knows who's next? Not my problem anymore. David stood up. Look, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but I have a family to feed. I can't get involved. He left me sitting there. I understood. Karen had struck him too. My I called that afternoon. Found something interesting. Karen's been in therapy for years. Same therapist. Dr. Alexandra Winters. So Dr. Winters has a reputation. She's been sued twice for encouraging patients to make false allegations during divorces. Both cases settled out of court. You think she's coaching Karen? I think it's worth investigating, but carefully. Patient-therapist privilege is strong. I added it to my growing file. Evidence I couldn't use. Patterns I couldn't prove. Meanwhile, my money was running out. Uber barely covered my car payment and phone bill. The cheap motel I'd moved into was eating the rest. 2 weeks later, I was grabbing coffee between rides when I saw them. Karen and a man I didn't recognize, sitting in a corner booth. She was crying, gesturing frantically. He was taking notes. My blood ran cold. She was doing it again, setting up another target. I texted my PI the location and the man's description. Within hours, he had a name. Jamie Morrison, Karen's new manager. She's been working there 3 weeks, my PI reported. Already complaining about his aggressive management style. We have to warn him. With what? You're under an NDA. You reach out to him. She'll sue you into oblivion. I watched Karen's pattern repeat. The small complaints, the documented incidents, the gradual escalation. Jamie had no idea what was coming. My lawyer called with worse news. Karen's attorney sent a formal demand. She wants a restraining order and damages for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Based on what? The PI's photos, her documented fear, and a statement from her therapist about the trauma you've caused. Her therapist who coaches people to lie? Allegedly coaches. And we can't prove that without violating privilege. The hearing was set for 2 weeks out. I spent every free moment preparing, organizing my evidence, creating timelines. But I knew how it would look. Male manager versus female victim. My word against hers. A week before the hearing, my PI called. Excited. Marcus's ex-girlfriend reached out. She has recordings. Recordings of what? Karen bragging about her system. How she got rid of Marcus. How she handled you. All of it. Can we use them? Depends. She recorded them in a one-party consent state, but Karen didn't know she was being recorded. Get them. I'll figure out the legal part later. The recordings were damning. Karen laughing about making me dance like a puppet. Describing how she'd planted evidence, manipulated situations, used her therapist to build credibility. But my lawyer was cautious. These are powerful, but potentially inadmissible. We need another angle. That angle came from an unexpected source. Min from design reached out through LinkedIn. Can't say much, but check the office security footage from March 15th, 2:47 p.m. It keeps backups off-site. March 15th. The day Karen had claimed I cornered her in the supply room. A claim I'd forgotten about because I'd been in a client meeting across town. My lawyer subpoenaed the footage. It showed Karen entering the supply room alone, messing up her hair and shirt, then emerging looking distressed. She'd fabricated an incident that never happened. This changes everything, my lawyer said. Proof of fabrication in one instance calls all her claims into question, but Karen wasn't done. 3 days before the hearing, I woke up to find my car vandalized, tires slashed, windows broken, Predator spray painted on the hood. The security cameras at the motel conveniently malfunctioned that night. I couldn't afford repairs. My Uber income stopped instantly. I was trapped. The morning of the hearing, I took the bus to court. I saw Karen in the hallway, surrounded by supporters. She was wearing a conservative suit, no makeup, looking every inch the victim. Jamie was there too, looking confused and concerned. He kept glancing between Karen and me, trying to piece together the truth. As we waited outside the courtroom, my phone buzzed. My PI. Check your email. Now. I opened it to find a forwarded message. From Dr. Alexandra Winters to Karen, dated 6 months ago. Remember, consistency is key. Small details make the story believable. We've rehearsed this. You've got this. How did you? Dr. Winters' assistant. Turns out she's been suspicious for years. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I showed my lawyer. His eyes widened. This is huge, but we need to verify authenticity before the courtroom doors opened. It was time. As we filed in, Karen brushed past me. Should have taken my advice, she whispered. Now I have to destroy you completely. I took my seat, my folder of evidence heavy in my hands. The judge entered, and I realized this was it. Either I'd finally expose Karen's pattern of manipulation, or she'd bury me so deep I'd never recover. The hearing was about to begin, and everything hung in the balance. The judge was an older woman with sharp eyes that moved between Karen and me, like she was already dissecting our stories. My lawyer stood first, outlining our position while I watched Karen perform for the gallery. She'd perfected the art of looking fragile without overdoing it. Karen's attorney painted me as an obsessed former manager who couldn't accept rejection. He presented the PI's photos, each one carefully cropped to remove context. Me at the grocery store, me at the coffee shop, me following her. When my lawyer cross-examined, Karen's voice trembled perfectly. She described feeling hunted and unable to live normally. The gallery murmured sympathetically. Then my lawyer introduced the March 15th security footage. The courtroom went silent as we watched Karen enter the supply room alone, deliberately mess up her appearance, then emerge looking distressed. She'd even checked her reflection in the hallway mirror before heading to HR. Karen's attorney objected, claiming the footage was illegally obtained. The judge overruled him. Karen's face had gone pale. My lawyer presented the email from Dr. Winters next. Karen's attorney fought hard against its admission, but the judge allowed it after confirming authenticity with the assistant who'd provided decided it. Your therapist appears to be coaching you on fabricating allegations, my lawyer said. Karen's mask slipped for just a second. Pure rage flashed across her face before she caught herself. That's taken out of context. Dr. Winters helps me process trauma. Process trauma by rehearsing stories? Objection, her attorney shouted. The judge called a recess. In the hallway, I saw Jamie Morrison pull my lawyer aside. They spoke quietly for several minutes before Jamie handed over his phone. When we reconvened, my lawyer had new evidence. Text messages from Karen to a friend, sent 3 days after she'd started working under Jamie. New boss is perfect target. Young, nervous, trying to prove himself. Give me 2 months. Karen's attorney scrambled. These are private communications obtained without... Mr. Morrison provided them voluntarily, my lawyer interrupted. He's prepared to testify about Ms. Henderson's pattern of behavior. The judge reviewed the messages. Her expression hardened as she read. Karen tried damage control. She claimed the messages were dark humor to cope with past trauma, but the judge wasn't buying it anymore. Ms. Henderson, I'm seeing a clear pattern of premeditated manipulation here. The fabricated supply room incident alone is enough to question your credibility. Karen burst into tears. Real ones this time. You don't understand what I've been through. My ex-husband is not the respondent in this case. The judge cut her off. My lawyer seized the moment. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Henderson has engaged in similar behavior with multiple individuals, including her ex-husband, who has filed his own restraining order against her. Karen's attorney objected again, but the damage was done. The judge had seen enough. I'm denying the restraining order request, she announced. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential charges of filing false reports and harassment. Karen shot to her feet. This is victim blaming. He destroyed my career. You destroyed your own career, the judge replied coldly. Court is adjourned. The aftermath was swift. Karen stormed out, her supporters looking confused and uncomfortable. Jamie Morrison shook my hand, thanking me for inadvertently warning him. In the parking lot, Karen was waiting by my damaged car. Her PI sat in his vehicle, no longer bothering to hide. You think you won? She hissed. I didn't respond, just walked past her toward the bus stop. I know where you live, where you work. This isn't over. Her PI got out of his car. Ma'am, I can't continue this assignment. What you're doing could cost me my license. Karen turned on him. I paid you to document stalking that doesn't exist. I'm done. He drove off, leaving Karen standing there. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely lost. My phone rang. My lawyer. The DA wants to meet Monday. They're taking the false report charges seriously. Also, I just got a call from your old company. They want to discuss your wrongful termination. I felt a flicker of hope. They believe me now? The security footage from the hearing is pretty damning. Plus, Jamie Morrison sent them documentation of Karen's attempts to manipulate him. They're reconsidering everything. That weekend, I stayed in my motel room, afraid to give Karen any ammunition, but she'd gone quiet. No calls, no texts, no mysterious cars following me. Monday's meeting with the DA was thorough. They'd found 3 other cases where Karen had made similar allegations. All had been dropped or dismissed, but the pattern was clear. They were building a case for serial false reporting. My old company's meeting was more complicated. Legal wanted to offer me a settlement and my job back, but there were conditions. We need you to sign a more comprehensive NDA, the lawyer explained. No social media posts, no discussing the case with media, no book deals. I almost laughed, as if anyone would want to read about a middle manager's battle with a manipulative employee. What about Karen? She's been terminated. We're also pursuing legal action to recover damages from the lost clients. I signed the papers. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something. Returning to work was surreal. Some colleagues welcomed me back warmly. Others kept their distance, unsure what to believe. The damage to my reputation would take time to repair. 2 weeks later, I was settling back into my office when reception called. There's a Marcus here to see you? Karen's ex-husband looked better than when we'd met at the diner. He sat across from my desk, fidgeting with his phone. I wanted to thank you, he said. The DA contacted me about testifying. It might help my custody case. We talked for an hour. He showed me photos of his kids, told me about the therapy they'd needed after Karen's manipulation. The false allegations had destroyed his relationship with them for years. She called me last week, he said quietly, begging for money. Said she's being evicted, can't find work. Blamed everyone but herself. I felt an unexpected pang of, not sympathy exactly, but something close. What did you tell her? Nothing. I hung up. My therapist says engaging with her just feeds the cycle. After he left, I sat at my desk thinking about cycles. Karen had created so many, trapping everyone she touched in her web of manipulation, but cycles could be broken. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, then recognized the area code. My hometown. Tom, this is Sarah from high school. I saw your LinkedIn is active again. My company's looking for a marketing director. Interested? I stared at the message. A fresh start. Away from all this. Away from Karen. But running felt like letting her win one last time. Thanks, I typed back. But I'm good where I am. Over the following months, the legal proceedings ground forward. Karen was charged with filing false reports and harassment. She pled down to misdemeanors, got probation, and mandated therapy. The real Dr. Winters lost her license after investigation revealed years of coaching false allegations. I heard through the grapevine that Karen had moved back with her parents in another state. Jamie told me she'd applied to his company under a different name, but HR caught it during the background check. My reputation slowly recovered. New clients didn't know the history. Old ones gradually forgot. The company implemented new policies about allegation investigations, including mandatory preservation of security footage. One day, almost a year later, I was having lunch when I saw a familiar figure through the restaurant window. Karen, thinner and worn-looking, walked past without seeing me. She was carrying carrying a box of job fair flyers. Our eyes met for just a second. She froze, then hurried away. I went back to my lunch. That night, I finally deleted all the documentation I'd kept. The screenshots, the recordings, the timelines, all of it. The war was over, even if neither of us had really won. My therapist called it closure. I called it exhaustion. 6 months after that, I was promoted to senior director. During my acceptance speech, I thanked my team for their support during a difficult period. Most didn't know what I meant. That was fine. The last I heard, Karen was working retail in her hometown, living quietly. Marcus got full custody of his kids. Jamie became a vice president at his company. David never did reach out, but I understood. Some wars don't end with victory parades.